Australian news themes. As someone who grew up in Australia in the 2000s, I have my pick of news themes that have become pretty nostalgic to me today. So I thought, let's revisit some of the ones I remember from the corners of my childhood. And I wanted an outsider's opinion on this too, someone who knows their stuff but also has never heard these themes before. And I know just the guy. Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
Being someone who's not an Australian and doesn't know our news themes, I thought you're the person that I should come to. And also, I guess the most obvious qualification I've glazed over is the fact that you're also a composer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So to start with, I was wondering if you could give me a bit of insight into, like, what do you think makes a good news theme?
Well, I think it's quite a tricky one because the news in itself is usually quite sad or shocking. So creating music to go with that, you don't want it to sound happy, but you don't want it to sound too sad because then you're kind of maybe taking the mick out of what you're saying a bit. So yeah, a very tricky balance, I think.
All right, now let's see what Tom makes of our news themes.
It started like a kind of conventional news theme. Now it's sounding a bit more like a maybe Mission Impossible groove with that triangle. Yeah, so it's definitely got some like real importance to it with the kind of orchestral elements. The percussion and the stuff that sounded like a spoof spy movie to me, it almost makes it feel kind of laid back. I don't know. I suppose you could imagine a kind of stealthy reporter looking around corners, seeing if there's any news around there. Yeah, it sounds like an old-time superhero theme. They've gone for quite a kind of, maybe a national anthem-y vibe. I feel like that it's definitely not as light-hearted as the Mission Impossible ones, but I think it almost takes itself, on the negative side, it takes itself a bit too seriously, maybe. Although the news is serious. This is why it's just such a kind of complex thing to do.
Love it. Love the insight. Great.
Those horns at the end were exciting. They sounded like something out of The Incredibles or something. It's still got that kind of heroic element to it, but with a bit more kind of tension at the end, I guess. They're going to get the story, but there might be some kind of sudden obstacles in their way.
One journalist on a mission.
Well, maybe I should launch in with my general opinion on news themes at this point, just to kind of contextualize what I'm about to say, which is that I think basically music to introduce news is almost impossible to do right, and basically no one should do it. Because of like the whole thing about, serious stories and things like that. Like even the BBC news theme, which I think, in the UK does the best job. I think it still has these kind of funky elements and it still presents the news as like an entertainment show rather than a kind of factual, informative show. So I think basically whenever you write some music for a news show, you're always going to risk undermining the seriousness of what you're talking about. So that's the kind of the preamble.
Thomas has some interesting points. Channel 7's theme, for example, hasn't always been this. In 2014, they tried out a more light-hearted theme.
Mourners tell of a mother and daughter's incredible bond after their mystery deaths in Bali. Nerves on edge as a strong earthquake rattles New Zealand's North Island. And terrorists issue a chilling threat just weeks out from the Sochi Winter Olympics.
This is 7 News at 7.
Yeah, you get the picture. While I was looking into this, I also found something pretty interesting. Seven's current theme is a track called The Mission, and it was actually composed for NBC in the US.
This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Deborah Roberts.
The guy who composed this song is legendary film composer John Williams.
E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, you know his stuff.
Channel 9 News is a weird one as well, but maybe even a bit weirder. Its theme comes from a film called Cool Hand Luke, and this scene in particular. And now, you'll never not hear it. But back to nostalgia, it is a bit of a weird niche, isn't it? And I'm starting to feel like I might be alone in this.
So I thought I should check with my siblings. They are, after all, the people that grew up alongside me, albeit they're all younger.
Thank you. I thought if anyone were to understand, it'd be them.
Sam, stop, put down your hands. Whatever you did, then not allowed. I'm going to kick you.
Hey.
I want to know what you guys think about Australian news themes, but I've got a professional's opinion. Do you remember Thomas Field from England?
Ooh, the British.
Yeah, is British. Jade is from England.
Yeah. So I want to go around and ask each of you what's like a news theme, the news theme that's the most memorable to you and why growing up.
Dun, 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 dun. Because then that would play and then it would be Deal or No Deal.
Please welcome your host, Andrew O'Keefe. Hey!
Fair. And Jenny?
I don't know.
Disqualified.
I don't know if I remembered it correctly or if it was the radio would have some theme like in the morning and it would wake me up every morning. I can't remember how it went there.
Jenny, is this someone that you were talking about?
Oh.
Oh, wait, so this is the one that Jenny's nostalgic for?
I just remember waking up to it.
What about you, Sam? Do you have a news theme that's nostalgic to you?
The ABC. Whenever I would hear that, I'd be like, news.
Nostalgic news theme. A nostalgic news theme of the old ABC music. Dun, 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 dun. Is that what you're talking about? Or is
I just found the one from, it was used from 1985 to 2005.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
No, never heard it in my entire life.
It's pretty clear to me now, there's one news theme in particular that keeps coming back over and over. The Majestic Fanfare.
That's pretty cool that they're still using that for their radio.
They are.
Is it the same recording, do you know?
No, I'll send you the one that we're using now. This is the recording we hear on radio these days.
This sort of sounds like a national anthem to me. Very much that kind of style. And to me seems more appropriate for news, maybe. Although, I don't know, maybe it makes it a bit then kind of posh and exclusive, this very classical style. So then maybe it's, I don't know. But definitely national anthem vibes I'm getting.
We'll start news again with the 1982 version of Majestic Fanfare.
Loving those squelchy synths. Is the image of the guy like that, is he reacting to the music? To be honest, back then it probably would have sounded really cool, right? But by today's standards, when we're used to kind of more, I guess, subtle uses of synthesizers and stuff, It does sound a bit on the nose, doesn't it? Yeah, that's cool. It's kind of combined the present aesthetic with the old theme. I quite like that.
It's groovy, isn't it?
It sounds very nostalgic, even for someone who doesn't have any nostalgia for the theme. I don't know, what do you think? I mean, to me, the news is just, I find it interesting and I like to know what's going on, but I don't feel like a kind of deep emotional connection, really.
When you were growing up, I don't know if it was the same for me, but my dad's alarm in the morning was the 6 a.m. ABC radio bulletin. So his radio would turn on. And so through the house, you might just hear like the MAJESTIC fanfare open up to the news. So I think for me, it's quite nostalgic.
Yeah, well, actually, similarly, my parents did and still do have the Radio 4 news as their alarm clock. But that is the news that just has those beeping sounds. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I listen to that radio station as well, so I haven't stopped listening to it recently enough to then listen again and feel nostalgic about it, if that makes sense. But I guess maybe because it's these kind of emotionless beeps, there's less to kind of be drawn towards and feel nostalgic about, maybe.
If you had to pick like a favourite news theme that you know in the UK, do you have one off the top of your head?
Yeah, well, this might be an obvious choice, but the BBC News theme for me is kind of, I think, gets it the closest to ideal, because it does sound very neutral. It takes a more electronic approach to the instruments used. Lots of the ones in the UK are quite kind of heroic and brassy and almost sound like a superhero theme. And it's like, who are the heroes? Are the reporters the heroes? Is that what you're trying to tell us? But the BBC one is a bit more kind of neutral and just gives some energy to proceedings, I suppose.
A big thank you to Thomas Field for his time and insight, and to Joseph Baronio for filming parts of this video for me. Now, before you go, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. There's no telling what will happen if you don't do that.
That is up to this minute. Coming next, the 7:30 report. Thank you for joining me. I'm Nat Kelly, and good night.